want to be successful. I want to do my TED talk. I want to get on the stage and I want to impact millions of people. But that's my way of tithing back. So yes, my ego's back, but it's not because I want power. It's not because I want money just for me, me, me. I want a bigger house. I want a nicer car. I don't care about that shit anymore.
From being a gang member to joining the police force to getting into politics to now a writer of two amazing books, we have our special guest, Edward Rodarte, in today's episode of the Journey podcast. And like always, don't forget to subscribe and share and stay tuned for more episodes just like this one. And welcome to another episode of The Journey by Collect the Closers. Today, we get to have a conversation with Gustavo Rojas, where he's going to walk us through his journey as a business owner, but more important, how to say no to the things that don't serve you when you're in that field of business. And the last thing, and my favorite part, was how to honor yourself and being grateful to every single moment that you get to experience as you grow and evolve your business through this journey of just evolving as a business owner. I cannot wait to hear your comments. Don't forget, like, subscribe, and share with anyone else that you believe could benefit from these stories, because we want to help as many entrepreneurs and business owners as we can. And welcome to another episode of the Journey podcast by Collect the Closers. I am your host, Jose Alvarez, and our special guest today, Edward Rodarte. Pleasure to have you in the podcast today, Edward. We've been before actually we all tuned in here. Diana was mentioning, oh my God, I was looking at some of his recordings, his own podcast and his book, and oh, I cannot wait to hear the podcast. She's all excited, brother. He's so excited for you. And you know what? Me personally, I met you at an event of a
Yes.
mastermind that we were both a part of, and briefly I heard your story as well. And I got to tell you, man, I'm excited. I'm excited for this today. I know that we have a big treat, which is sharing your life and your journey, and I know a lot of people are gonna benefit. So welcome and thank you for this time.
No, well, thank you for inviting me on. I'm always ready to share my journey. So I love the titling of this and excited to, dive in.
Well, let's do it. Well, tell us a little bit more about you, a little bit more on the professional side. I know you're a realtor, but tell us anything else that maybe on the professional side, so that people get to know you a little bit more.
Okay, so I'd like to first start off by saying I'm a man that almost didn't make it. And, but I chose to be here. And, I grew up in the streets of Compton, surrounded by a lot of gangs and a lot of division, ethnic wise and so forth. And then unfortunately dabbled with gangs in the San Gabriel Valley. I'm someone that was blessed to become the mayor of the city that I used to run the streets in my 20s. I've worked in law enforcement. I've built a real estate career from scratch, and all through it, along with a lot of anger, pain, and resentment and hurt, dabbled in plant medicine ceremonies, and finally I found out who I was. And underneath all that armor, now I'm a man that helps fathers break the cycle. Not only fathers, but just families and men, women, adult children that help them free themselves from pain that they were never supposed to carry in the first place. I consider myself a father first, a healer, a closer of not only deals, but also of wounds, And also, I'm also a husband also. So sometimes I forget to mention that.
Well, like I gotta tell you, one comment I heard from a mutual friend of ours. He once said, "This guy, he was you were a really tough individual. Like you used to like just through force, you used to get things done." So walk us a little bit on everything you mentioned right now. So on the usually when people think about the journey, everybody thinks of the journey of like how they made it to a certain status, right? So for you, it sounds to me like at one point you were were you a police officer first, then got into politics? So how did that even happen? Or were
No,
you a realtor at the time too, or that comes
no,
after?
no. I wasn't a realtor at the time. I actually, you know, dabbled in street gangs. I got bullied in eighth grade,
Okay.
and we were living out in Bell Huntington Park area.
Mm.
We'd moved from Compton, kind of stepped up a little bit, moved into that area. And then my parents finally bought a home in La Puente in 1987. I remember prior to moving, I started to get bullied by this one kid in eighth grade. And I freaking knew I could take him. If I find him today, I'm just gonna punch him in the face um, just to,
It's
you
all
know,
time sakes.
just for old time's sake. There you go. I need to watch my language. So, but that journey sparked something different because then I moved over to La Puente, and I just kind of made that choice. I made a conscientious choice without even realizing it that I was never going to get bullied again. And from that point forward, that kind of opened myself up into a life of gangs and so forth because I definitely wasn't athletic. So why you grew up in La Puente, you were either an athlete or you were a fucking cholo. So let's just call it what it is. And
Right.
so I ended up falling into that, and then that started a whole life of chaos. And but from there, along the way, realizing that that's not something I wanted by choice, but it's something that just presented itself as a way to protect myself. Um, and along the way, just you know, still wanting to find another avenue towards things, and um, I got into politics because of unions. I ended up working for the school district. Got out of that. Ended up working in the school district. Ended up working for the school police for Walnut Valley Unified, and then got involved with the union. So I was like not even 21. I was already the president of the union, and flying to conferences and learning about mediation and all these different things. And from there is how I actually got my start on the police commission in the city, and then eventually to the planning commission, and then eventually to the city council, and so forth. So yeah, kind of a crazy journey, you know.
So, so I've always found it really interesting that people that are into gangs or they get involved in that sometimes, right, they do end up getting into law enforcement. To me, that's always been really interesting to see, because then you have the most common thing, which is they just completely destroy their lives, right? They don't get out of that environment. How did you make it from being involved with the wrong people to then start searching the police force, or I mean, how do you go from that to that?
Well, when I prior to getting into starting to dabble into gangs, I had become a police explorer. So I never really wanted that choice of wanting to get mixed up in that, but it was more from a place of safety and security.
Mm,
And it was, I didn't want to be bullied. I didn't want to be that kid that was picked on, and I wasn't a jock. So that was my only alternative. So my mindset was always to go into law enforcement, was always to become a police officer. So
got it.
once I was able to exit away from that, I got back. So it's almost like I went off the path of my journey,
Mhm.
but then I was able to redirect myself back once I was able to get away from the environment.
And was there someone that helped you get out of that environment?
Um, you know, I think honestly, it was me that helped myself.
Okay.
I mean, definitely the love of my mother not wanting to, starting to see me go in that direction, and really, I guess at times she really didn't understand what was going on.
Mhm.
Um, but then when she started to see that, there was something happening, her starting to push me back and not wanting me to continue in that lifestyle, and then actually, when I got expelled out of La Puente High School and had to go to schools up in Whittier, um, there was a counselor at the school that we started talking, and then she got to know me. And her husband was actually the coordinator for the Explore program for the sheriff's department out in Norwalk. And so I thought like I was done because of just my past. But they gave me a shot and gave me an opportunity, and I was able to connect back in with the Explorer, which is a Sheriff's Explorer program and so forth, and get back on track. So it's almost like I had a hiccup for 2, 3 years, and then I was just able to get back on my track and continue where I left off.
So you joined law enforcement. So you're a police officer. For how long were you doing that?
So I got hired when I was 18, 19 as
Mm,
a reserve police officer for LAPD.
okay.
Um, also working for the school district, and then eventually got hired as a school police officer also.
Mm.
So I was now not even old enough to drink, and I was already going through the academy and so forth. So
And you're seeing it's interesting because the school police, so you're looking at other kids as well going through their struggles, and then you also get to see it from a different perspective, I'm guessing, right? Because now you're on the other side. You probably got to see people get bullied, or people that they were going through struggles as a kid, right? When you're in that space.
It gave me empathy. It gave
Mm.
me empathy and it gave me understanding. So I honestly feel that some of the best counselors, police officers, firefighters, doctors are ones that have gone through the struggle. A doctor can sit here and go and get educated and learn all about medicine, but unless they've gone through the struggles of having to battle some chronic disease or some ups and downs, they don't truly understand the dynamics. I mean, you can get the textbook smarts. Same thing with an addict. You can have an addict that. Well, let me go back. You can have someone that goes and becomes an expert, a therapist, and wants to help addicts and so forth. And yes, you can approach it from an academic standpoint, but the real medicine comes from an addict that actually was able to overcome that and heal themselves from that, and knows the struggles, knows the cravings and so forth. So I just think that sometimes, well, I think a lot of times some of the best teachers are the ones that actually walked in those shoes, walked in those fires and so forth. And
You got
so
to
coming
experience.
from into law enforcement background, I saw the hurt and pain of these kids. You think of a gang member and you think, oh, they're pieces of shit. Oh, they're low lives, but you don't know their stories behind them. You don't know that. I would say that most of them chose that as their family because they didn't have family. They were surrounded by parents that were drug addicts or that were involved in the gang, or they were neglected or abused. So people don't wake up one day and say, oh, I'm going to join a fucking gang. No, they wake up because they're looking for community, looking for their tribe. They're looking for protection. They're looking for a voice.
And then not only that, but as kids, everyone, you could say we're all vulnerable. When you're a child, you don't really have a lot of decisions for you to make that are either good or bad. It just depends whatever you have in front of you. That's a survival mechanism for a lot of people. So 100%, no, that makes sense. So then you're in the police force. Then you start getting into politics. How was that transition? I mean, for your professional career, and also seeing things from a, because it sounds to me like everything that you were trying to do was always just provide some sort of support, help, and be there for people. That's at least what I'm hearing, right? Because you go from police force now into politics. Well, how was that experience?
It was an amazing experience. A lot of times people said I wore my heart on my sleeve because I
Mm.
was fighting, always fighting for the underprivileged. I was always fighting for the people that didn't have a voice. So, I remember in politics always ruffling feathers and really shaking things up, fighting with Gloria Molina, who was a county supervisor, or the local senators, because I was actually at one time for gang injunctions and they were against it. I was about beautification and using the money to help the residents as opposed to putting it in some bullshit programs that weren't going to touch the residents. So I instrumented, I honestly feel that one of my biggest accomplishments when I was on city council was being able to start the conversations about creating a youth community center, which finally got built about 2 years after I left. But it was something that was never on the table, but just giving the youth a place where they could go and they could learn and have computers and games and activities. So that, in addition to how we tackle the gangs and crime and so forth. So, um, I guess the answer to your question is I was a voice of the people, and I wasn't intimidated by the infrastructure or the powers that be that were in power. No, I came in with an agenda of what did the people want, and I would have community meetings. I would set up a booth outside of a market and talk to people, and so I built a lot of support from the football boosters, the PTAs, the little leagues, because they never had a voice. Especially in local politics. We go, we knock on your door, we beg for your vote, and then you disappear. No, I was still out there talking to people. I was still out there keeping a pulse on what was going on in the community.
So as you're doing that, how is, like, let's say for example, when you think about it from a professional standpoint, do you think at any point fighting for others do you think that can, because I see it from my perspective, I think that will take it a little bit too heavy on my shoulders. Like I will want to do so much for people. Did you see any of that ever affecting you in your personal life or anything that was going on? Because were you running another business, or were you were just strictly in politics and working as a police officer? How did that dynamic work?
No, I was running different businesses at the time. So,
Really?
my first business I started was when I was 8 years old, believe it or not. So, and I was selling candies and pencils that I would buy at this store called Newberry's, and I was selling them at school to make money. So when I was in politics, I was already, I had a couple different businesses. I had a nuisance abatement company that would get contracts with cities and do cleanups on properties.
Okay.
I had a printing company. And if I'm not mistaken, during that time, I partnered with a helicopter company and we were transporting live organs when somebody passed away to
No
hospitals. So
way.
I always had I think when I look back and I
Yeah.
remember one time my kids made me a portrait or like a frame with all the different business cards I had. And I think I racked up almost 50 business cards on different businesses that I was a part of or partaked in. So it's been a journey of entrepreneurship from an early age. And probably one of the biggest reasons that got me into real estate was the deals I was able to broker when I was in politics.
Uh-huh.
And I'm putting together these deals for these shopping centers and franchises coming in. And I'm looking and going like, man, I just missed out on $50,000 commission. Oh, $30,000 commission. Oh, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm right here as the city official trying to, partner, barter these deals between the property owners and the investors, and I'm putting them together. We even when I was in office, we brought down the movie industry, and they filmed a couple of movies in our city and so forth. So there was a lot of fun things and excitement happening during that time.
And you're like, and I'm not getting paid for none of this
And I'm
stuff.
not
Let me
getting
find a
paid
way to
for it.
get a piece of the
So
pie.
it's time exactly.
That's good. So okay, so now you have all of this going on. Did you have a family at the time, or how was your family dynamic?
No, at the time, just one daughter.
Yeah.
Wasn't married at the time, and just out there, just focused on building my business and focused on building my political career.
How many kids do you have right now?
I have three girls.
Three
Three
girls.
girls.
Okay, so at
Yeah,
the time you have one daughter, you're married, and you're
not even
pretty
I'm
much
not even married at the time. No, I'm
you're
just
not even married. You just
no.
had your daughter. Okay, so now okay, so walk me. So then you decide to get into real. So that's when you get into real estate. You start now being a realtor as your main source of business. Is that what happened through this
When
change
I
of life?
my first 10 years in real estate,
Uh huh.
I was still working for the school police. And then I transitioned into teaching. So then I started teaching. I got my vocational credential, and I
Okay.
started teaching in marketing, business, criminal justice, and entrepreneurship. So got my credential. I taught at
Okay.
the continuation schools
Okay.
for two or three different school districts. And then from there, I finished up my degrees. So I got my MBAs in business and marketing, and I went into corporate America. So I still have my real estate license. So the first 10 years, I always had a different job. So then I went into corporate America and did that and rose up in corporate America, all the while doing deals on the side. So
So,
yeah, so I was
is-
always just kind of multitasking and juggling. So
do you think that a lot of people in real estate they have to go through all that, or like do you think a lot of, because you and I have a lot of mutual friends, right? But do you think that a lot of people that they find themselves creating different businesses, is it because more of the spirit, or is it more because of the need, a mix of both? Or what do you think happens? Because even myself, I have multiple businesses, right? And I'm always curious to understand for other people, why does that normally happen?
I think what it is for a lot of people, it's we go into real estate because we love the thrill
Mhm.
of the negotiation of the deal. So it's almost like a euphoric high. And it's like, okay, well, I got this figured out. Okay, let me dabble into something else. Let me see if I can build this also. So a lot of us that are dabbling in different businesses and so forth, it may not necessarily be. I mean, yes, there's streams of income. Streams of income are nice and diversifying them because the market slows, businesses go up and down. Especially if you dabble in restaurant business, you never know how that's going to go. So
Exactly.
having different businesses, you're going to have different streams of income. And yeah, when you're an entrepreneur at heart. So it doesn't matter what business, you just want to be a part of building. And I honestly
Exactly.
think that that's where it comes from is you just want to build. You want to watch something from the beginning as a seed and you want to watch it grow. And sometimes you take it all the way to the end. Sometimes you get to a point, it's like, okay, I've taken it as far as I can go. Now I want to go ahead and liquidate it and pass it on to somebody that can take it on to the next level.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So now, look, one of our missions here with our podcast, one is to show people the side that you just described right now, which is not a lot of people have it figured out. They're gonna go through different journeys and sometimes feel like they're doing the right thing, or sometimes they feel like they're doing the wrong thing, but they just have to do whatever they can in order for them to survive. So if you can put yourself, let's say, in a time capsule, right, and you can go back in time, and of course we're not gonna sit here and say what would you not do, but is there certain things that you think if you would have just done a slight adjustment, you think it would have helped you along your journey, not only in real estate, even though most of our viewers and our community is real estate related, around anything else? It could be personal, it could be business, anything else you think you probably should have done different that would have had provided you some sort of benefit now and then.
Two things. The first thing is when I started in real estate, I would have partnered with someone early in my business because I
Okay.
had the opportunity to partner with people with a lot of knowledge. But in my mind, it's like, oh, I got to give away 50% of my commission. So the learning curve was a lot longer. So
Mm.
as I was blessed that I didn't have to rely on the real estate um, money as a source of, to be able to pay the bills and so forth. But had I done that sooner, I would have understood the fundamentals behind it sooner. And then maybe I wouldn't have transitioned into corporate America or so forth, So because I did miss out on a lot of the market when the market crashed and so forth, so I missed out on a lot of those because I was in the corporate world and banking and so forth. So I missed out on a lot of the REOs and so forth. And so that's the first one is, for people looking to start out, just swallow your pride and ego. You think you know everything, shut the fuck up and just partner with someone or join a team and just learn because you could learn all the how the MLS works and how to list a property and so forth. But if you don't know how to market, if you don't know about structure and tracking and so forth, then you're going to struggle. And it's going to take you. So that was the first thing is I should have just partnered. And I had the opportunity to partner with some great megastars. Even I had the opportunity to when I started, I was with First Team Real Estate, and I had the opportunity to partner with the son of the owner of the company. And I chose not to because I don't want to give her this commission. So yeah, I made little blips of money, but looking back, I could have made, if I would have just put my head down and just shut up and learned, I could have made a heck of a lot more money sooner. So that's the first thing. The second thing is all this motivation and reading books and so forth and convincing myself that I can do anything I want and got into politics at an early age and became the president. Got into unions, became the president. Everything I touched, like I was conquering, but not realizing that deep down inside, I still didn't believe in myself.
Wow.
So it was all a facade. So here I have all these titles and I'm sitting on all these boards and commissions, but struggling with the belief in myself. Because if I believed in myself, I wouldn't have had to go work for corporate America. I could have just jumped into real estate and went all in. And if I believed everything that I was reading and seeing, I could have built my business a long time ago. So a
That's
lot
a
of
huge
times,
statement right there. Remember? That's a
that,
huge
you know,
statement.
so you look at someone and they look like they're put together and everything looks good, but sometimes it's all just a facade. Then you add social media and oh my gosh, look at the car, look at the house, and half that shit is rented anyways. Okay, so let's be real. Um, you'd be surprised how many people. And then my ego and pride was so, you know, all my anger, all my hurt, pain, I drove it into everything that I touched And a lot of it, I left a lot of destruction behind me. So I hurt people in the process, physically, mentally, psychologically. I destroyed people because I was going to be number one no matter what, and I didn't care about the consequences. And that wasn't success. That was hurt, pain. So yeah, that's my
Do,
time capsule.
do you think that it was more like a survival mechanism that you were like running through people, or was it more like just that whole sense of like I gotta be number one?
It was survival, but I was a bully. I was a bully. And then you take in all my past experience and everything I went through, and to me, life or death was just, it was a part of business. It was just a part, because I was exposed to so much of that. I lost so many friends. I've been shot at. I just a lot of stuff that I went through. So life was just like, okay, whatever's happened's meant to happen. And that's how I approached um, myself in corporate America. And in corporate America, I rose pretty high, but also in the process, I burned a lot of bridges. So there comes a point where your ego and pride can only take you so far before you burn enough bridges that it's like, okay, I'm never going to become a senior vice president. I'm never going to become an executive vice president because I piss people off. And same thing with in the real estate. I was a bully. I mean, man, I look back at how many fights I got into, um, and like I said, I'm sure you've heard, you've talked to people, and yeah, I was, quick to, I'd fly off the handle you know, at the drop of a dime, and it wasn't just gonna be flying off the handle, like my hands were gonna be all over you, and I didn't
Wow.
care, and that was scary. That was scary.
So how long have you been in the real estate industry now?
This year's 25 years.
25 years. Oh wow.
25 years.
25 years. Okay. So then you the moment I met you, and I'm trying to think, I think it was now going on maybe 6 7 years. That's when I saw
It's
you for the
inner
first time.
circle.
Inner
Yes, when we
circle,
were in
right?
inner circle. Yeah.
Yeah. You had already gone through the journey of like the plant medicine that you did, right? And
Yes.
I'll be honest with you, and it's funny because everyone used to make fun of me. I've never done it. I've never done plant medicine, even though I was part of the great community we were in. For whatever reason, it's never been something that I got called upon to do, and it's been interesting for me. But I'm not gonna lie to you, from a distance, I used to envy a lot of the people that will go through that, and then they will come out as a whole different person. And I'm like, man, what is wrong with me, right? So okay, so you're in business. You did plant medicine without knowing what was happening, or that your transformation of, let's call it, the season of roughness in business led you to do that, or how did that happen?
Um, well, that happened in the conversation started in 1999. So I'm
Okay.
going to tell you a funny story that it's been put out there. So with Intero and Danny Morel, who was a broker at the time, he'd
Yeah.
just come back from doing plant medicine a couple months before, and he was going through a terrible divorce. He has this end of the year goals at the Palms and Industry, and they invite all of us up there for the end of the year goal setting. So, and now Danny's on this whole journey of, like kumbaya and, just in a different place because he used to be, like I said, an asshole. Okay. So he just, very in his ego and so forth. And we didn't like each other. Okay. So we didn't get along. Go figure. And here I was at his office. So his brother always kind of, was the referee in between, me and Danny. And so it's funny because it's the end of the day and he says, okay, we're going to do this exercise. He says, I want you to go find someone you hate, someone you can't stand. And I want you to go stand in front of them. And we're going to do this exercise. Just trust me. And so all of a sudden we get up and everybody's coming towards me. I'm like, oh shit, no, I know y'all hate me, but I went right up on the stage and I went to Danny and I stood in front of him and I said, I fucking can't, you know, whatever I said, but you know, you
Yeah.
asked for it. I don't like you. And this is right on stage and he's looking, he's like, are you serious, man? Like, he's like, he just threw his hands up and we did an eye gazing exercise. Okay.
Okay.
Never did an eye gazing exercise before, and we did it for like 3 to 5 minutes, and everybody's doing it in the room with each other. And then we just had this connection, like just tears started streaming down, like not tear, but just like, I was like, oh my gosh, something's happening. And I realized that we didn't like each other because we were the same. We both had that ego, that pride, that machismo. And so it's like a connection happened in that moment. And then, we went to dinner that night. And long story short, he says, "Hey, you know what? I want you to come with me and do ayahuasca.
Wow.
I'm gonna go ahead and um, put down a referral for you to see if they'll take you because you had to go through this whole intake and so forth." And in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go because the group he goes to caters towards tech founders in Silicon Valley. So I'm going to go work on getting my real estate app built. So I don't need healing. Like, I need to go make connections. Yeah, yeah, okay, I'll go. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't believe in it. I was like, okay, this is going to be a way to network and I'm going to go make some connections out there. I didn't do the exercises. I don't think I even read the books. I got out there a couple days before, and you're supposed to be on a dieta. You're not supposed to eat meat. I drank. I ate meat, tacos de pastor, everything you're not supposed to do. I did,
Wow. Wow.
and because to me this was a bunch of crazy white people going and hippies going into the jungle and getting high. That was my thought.
Right.
And no, I went in there on February 20th, 2020. My life changed 2 weeks before the world shut down with pandemic.
Really?
And I went and sat with ayahuasca and with Danny and some other people from the office and other people from around the country. And it blew my world upside down. It's the first time I cried in like 29 years. Okay. It just opened my heart and made me realize how much pain I had caused on my family, my daughters. Um, and, because prior to that, so my daughters are 30 years old. Alyssa's 30, Marissa's 24, and Clarissa's 22. My daughters were not allowed to cry growing up. My daughters were not allowed to show emotion. They had to get straight A's because in my mind, I was raising strong, independent girls and I didn't want to raise weak girls. So when they struggled and they were going through their issues, um, I was almost at a point where, you know what? If you are weak, then maybe you shouldn't be on this world and maybe you should just end it.
Wow.
Like that's how um in how much darkness and my masculine and ego I was, that I was embarrassed that I was raising weak girls and they were not allowed to cry. So there was a lot of trauma that happened. So along the way, but February 20th, I sat with it. My world burst open. I cried. I started to feel what I had caused. And that started my journey of healing. And that was a transformation. When I got there, I had a big team. Were always battling between first, second, and third place in the office at Intero, which was a very competitive office, and everybody was competing against each other and so forth. And we tracked every number and so forth. So going there, I was on top of the world. I don't need no plant medicine. I don't need no healing. Shit, just give me and connected with some people from Silicon Valley and let me get some funding to get this app off the ground. But yeah, I went in uh, blindsided, and yeah, it changed the course and trajectory of from that point forward how I started to navigate.
As
So
as you were doing that with your family, you could say the way you were describing it, did that affect relationships? Did that impact the bond that you had with your family, or how does that
after I did
unfold?
medicine,
Yeah, after you did the medicine, like, or
after I
actually,
did
like,
it, they were
through the season of like the pain and everything, and then when you come back, I mean, because I can only imagine there's things that you come back to your loved ones, and opening up certain wounds sometimes can hurt a lot.
it.
How did that feel? How did that work?
There was a lot of anger, resentment, because I came back with a lot of weight lifted off my shoulders. I came back with an open heart. I
Mm.
came back wanting to fix things, not realizing that I came back and I came back with empathy. I came back with a heart full of love, and I came back wanting forgiveness. and nobody was ready to give me forgiveness. So, and it caused some explosions. And the worst one was with my oldest daughter, who was a mini me. So she was a replica of me. So, um, and so I remember us getting into a big, and she worked for me at the time. And I remember us getting into a big, drawn, almost fist fight in the office one day because she was so angry. And basically her words were, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's such bullshit that you went back and went and did whatever you did and did this ayahuasca stuff, and you came back happy, and you left all the basically all the destruction, behind. So that was the feeling. Is I came back, and I don't want to go back there. I just want to focus on now. But you can't just focus on the present because there's still a lot of um, unhealed wounds in the past that need to be resolved. And I was more like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Let's just focus on now. So it was a lot of hiccups along the way. And even to this day, 6 years later, all my daughters have sat with plant medicine. Their mom sat with plant medicine, and we're a family that's healing. We're a family that's healing. And my purpose, or my number one goal in this life, is to heal the relationship with my immediate family before I pass. That's it. I'm not going to put a timeline of by next year, sometime. Just that's what I want to leave with, is that I am able to heal that relationship so we don't continue to pass on this ancestral trauma from one generation to the next.
Hey there, hope you're enjoying the Journey podcast by Collective Closers. And for those of you that are new here, you can now find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So make sure you follow us there and stay tuned for every new episode on Fridays on your Perform platform. Do you think that business people and people that have that big ambition destroy their, you could say their family environment? And I tell you this because frankly I've heard it from a lot of close friends where they tell me, oh, my dad, he wasn't into just money, or my mom and my dad, they were both in business. And I've noticed that, and it's sad to say, right, it's sad to see so many bright people that they focus on providing or creating a legacy, but then as long as they're doing that, they're just causing so much pain. Do you think that business, if you're in business, there's more chances of you having that experience with your family, or you think it just comes down to the individual?
I would say it's business. I would say that it's trauma.
Trauma.
And let me explain. My addiction was money, power, and even sometimes alcohol. My addiction was, I don't want to face the trauma that I've created, so I'd rather just stay out and work. I don't want to come home and have to have these conversations, so I'd just rather work all the time. So let me go out and build, 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 because that was my escape from not facing what was really happening. And this is why a lot of entrepreneurs, um, they work, 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 because they're running from something. I honestly believe that. And it doesn't have to be entrepreneurs. It could be people that work, 10, 12 hours. They could be, come from a union, a trade, but then they don't go home right away. They go with their friends and they drink and so forth because they don't want to come home and deal with the trauma or the chaos that they've caused at home. Because in my home, it was not an emotionally safe home. Physically, it was safe, but it was not emotionally safe. There was chaos, there was trauma, there was yelling, it's my way, and that's the only way, you know?
Do you think that's a masculine trait though? Do you think that when you're in your masculine, you tend to do that, or do you think that's the wounded masculine that is acting that way?
It's a wounded masculine. It's a bunch of bullshit is what it is. It's what society has created for men, that men aren't allowed to cry. Men have to show um, themselves as tough. And so what happens is we mask and we shield our hurt, our pain behind alcohol and drugs and work and women and all these things. But deep down inside, we're just little broken boys and girls that are just struggling to trying to find peace.
you have mentioned something in your social media the other day. You were talking about fatherhood. So from that space of fatherhood, what do you think is the role, your definition, right? What do you think is the role of a father, if from your own words?
It's to be present. It's to create memories, experiences. It's to put the phone down. It's to always choose your children's events, their performances over work. This is the kind of dad I was. I would go to a performance and I would bring work with me and my laptop, and I'd be working, and my daughter would just look and that hurt in her eyes. But I didn't see hurt in her eye. At the time, I didn't see hurt. I just saw like, oh my gosh, here you go. You're being a sissy again. Like I'm here, I'm sitting here, but I have to work, and you're right here going to freaking complain about put the computer away or why weren't you listening? I am. So I always masked it. I was always working, working. So even when I was there physically, I wasn't emotionally present because I was on the phone taking a call, going outside. And, a father is being present. It's creating memories. It's having fun. It's being silly. It's, yes, you want to be a parent to create structure and discipline, but you also need to you need to learn how to become their friend, their confidant, someone that they can go to. Because here's what happened in my house. My daughters went through a lot of trauma, different situations, but nobody ever told me because they were afraid of what I would do.
Wow.
So here I'm this tough guy and have all these contacts and different things, and I can make things happen, and nobody's gonna ever hurt my kids, and I'll just make a phone call and I'll get this fixed. And no, they kept it from me because they were afraid. They were
Wow.
afraid. We don't want you to do something that's going to send you to jail or God forbid something else. So my daughters went through a lot of pain and hurt all under my nose. And so me being this tough guy and machismo, you think like, okay, nobody's gonna fuck with my kids. No, it happened. And I never knew about it till after my journey with medicine. And thank God it happened after my journey with medicine because, it might have been a different outcome.
Because now you're approaching it more from a space of let me understand before I react. Before it was let me react, and I probably wouldn't even understand why I did what I did or any situation that
Exactly.
could occur. So then
100.
so okay so then you I know you have a book, right? You wrote, is it your first book or the one
Yeah,
that you
my first
released?
book, it's actually right here.
Yeah.
It's called Healing the Inner Brat. And this is my story, my journey of the trauma that I went through. And it's in chronological order. It starts from prenatal. It starts from when you're in your mother's womb and when your mom and dad are fighting or they're ingesting drugs or alcohol or there's trauma, that's going to impact the fetus. And then from there, issues can start to happen. So that's just prenatal. And then, we talk about, your early years in childhood and getting yelled at or getting shut down, incidents that happen in junior high, in elementary school. So it just goes through all the different trauma points that can happen that can start to shift how you're going to show up as an adult. So it's called healing the inner brat, but it's, healing the inner child is what I'm trying to say, but it's called healing the inner
Sure.
brat. And it's just talking about all the different things that happen that now show up for you in life. And now you realize, like, oh my gosh, this is why I can't speak in public. Oh, this is why I'm more inverted instead of extroverted. This is why I struggle with unworthiness. This is why I struggle with feeling like I'm not worthy of love because it's all happened. It all stems from your inner child, that little boy or girl inside of you that didn't get something. And from that, you create this story. And then that starts the issues.
Do you think there's a correlation with success and that you described, you having those traumas? And the reason why I say this is because like I know that, and when we know a lot of people in our industry, right? And we see the ones that are succeeding, but yet they're always stressed out, always like pulling their hair. And then we look at other people that it looks like they have figured something special where now they're just attracting things. And I've always find it really interesting because even in my own, right, I've gone through both seasons where I feel like I'm putting things together by force. And then on the other side where I feel like things are just happening and just flowing. And a lot of it does for me at least, right, does come into like certain spaces where I am acting from a space of the traumas that I have carried along the way, right? How do people find themselves in a space where they can like just I guess slow down and really think about it? Am I building something from pain and just that you could say survival mechanism, or just in a space of really this is who I am and I'm enjoying the road?
Well, that goes back to all the trauma points. That goes back to healing your inner child. Whether it's plant medicine or whether it's meditation, whether it's going to church and you're faith based or whatever it is. It all
Do,
comes
do,
back to
Do you think
um,
in your business would it happen different? Like if let's say you like now based on what you're doing right now, because right now you're not. Are you still growing a team? Are you still building all that? What are you doing now in business right
no. So don't have a team anymore. I actually came back from my first ceremony ayahuasca in 2020, and I dismantled my team.
now? Wow.
I dismantled it because it came and there was like 15, 18 people. I dismantled it because it was all from a place of pain and hurt.
Hmm.
It was an all woman team, believe it or not.
Okay.
And they were all women that struggled with abandonment issues, relationship issues. And so I just kind of jumped on the bandwagon of, okay, let's take all that trauma and, fuck these men and F this and F your dad and, let's just go out. And so just jumped on the bandwagon of their hurt and pain and just use that to kind of fuel the business. But I realized, like, man, this isn't the energy I wanted to come from.
Wow.
You know, Before it was all like about the money and about how much money we can make and so forth. Now my business is different. Now my business, it flows because I come from a place of wanting to help people. And through helping people, it just falls into place. The deals just kind of happen. And it's not always about, oh, well, okay, let's, if I sit down and list an appointment and okay, and especially because I work with a lot of distressed properties. I work with a lot of NODs and probates and divorce sales. So instead of sitting here and talking about, okay, well, what's the house worth and how are we going to do the split and who's getting what? No, I want to understand how we got there. I want to understand, like, what are you willing to share? Because by understanding the dynamics of what's happening in the family, one, it's going to make the transaction easier because there's going to be, they're going to put their guard down. And I'm not doing it for that, but I'm doing it because I'm truly trying to understand how they got there and whether or not it's salvageable, because sometimes relationships are salvageable, especially when we deal with divorce situations. But sometimes it's the ego and pride that gets in the way. So I
Yeah.
come from a place of service.
Okay.
I come up from a place of wanting to understand the situation. And then from there, I give them different options. And
You know,
that's
you know,
helped my business.
it's funny because I'm looking at your story and it kind of goes back to the same thing. Like you go back to helping people, which is where you technically started, right?
Mm.
When you got into law enforcement, then politics, and then you go through this whole entire thing and you go back to now helping people from a different perspective, from a different space. You know what I mean? So interesting to see
You
that.
know, no, absolutely. And, I remember when I sat in plant medicine ceremonies, and I've done about 100 all over the world now. Okay. I've done this about 100 times. Okay. So I've gone all in. And I remember having these ego deaths, and I was so excited. Like, I killed my ego. I killed my ego. And then what I realized is the ego is not a bad thing to have, but as long as you start to understand what the purpose of it is for. So my purpose is, yes, I definitely would like to make a lot more money, but when I make that money, I'm going to use it for different things that are going to give back. I coach a lot of people that are going through struggles with their family, with their children. So a lot of my content right now is on parents struggling with entitled kids, because I have clients that are struggling with that. I have clients that are struggling with grief right now over the passing of their significant others or their children. So my content mirrors my clients that I'm working with. And I'm not going to call them clients, I'm going to call them my spiritual brothers or sisters that I'm working with. And now my ego is no, I want to be successful. I want to do my TED talk. I want to get on the stage and I want to impact millions of people. But that's my way of tithing back. So, yes, my ego's back, but it's not because I want power. It's not because I want money just for me, me, me. I want a bigger house. I want a nicer car. I don't care about that shit anymore. I want money so that I can give back, so I can help people. And that's been the most beautiful part of the journey is learning how to orchestrate your ego, learning how to use it for the betterment of humanity as opposed to it's all about you. So that's the place that I'm coming from now. Is just in a very different space.
Yeah, a whole different perspective now. So it's interesting to hear your story because right off the bat, I could tell you that you're a driven person. Like you want to check off the mark, right? You want to, okay, I'm accomplishing this and accomplishing that. But just the way that you're describing it now, it sounds more like you're just doing it for the sense of like, how can I enjoy what I'm doing and still be able to live around everything that is happening, be able to give back. When you were describing the other story, it was more like, let me just take as much as I can, and then whatever's left over, someone can benefit. Now, through this journey, through the podcast that we have here, we always say that the biggest closing that we have is usually ourselves. Now, I for the most part, I usually ask people like, hey, at any point in time, did you have to convince yourself that you can achieve something? And on your end, it's interesting because when I'm hearing you speak, like it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds to me like along the way, like you always kind of didn't have to close yourself. Am I incorrect? Because I could potentially be incorrect. Like, were there moments that you just didn't believe that you can make it through or achieve something, or you doubted yourself along the way and just had to find a way to still push through?
I think a lot of that comes from just a lot of times we don't feel worthy.
Hmm.
We don't feel worthy of success. We don't feel worthy of, we don't feel deserving of it. And then you have outside influences. You have, your parents or people around you that maybe don't have your tenacity, don't have your drive, and then they, become the Debbie Downers. And so oh, what do you mean you're going to go into politics? You know nothing about it, and you're not going to win. You're going to embarrass yourself, or oh, you're going to go into business. Oh no, because we don't come from a business background, or oh, you're going to go to school. You're already too old. I didn't get my degree till I was 34 years old. I went back and finished up. I was like on the 15-year plan. But I finally went it once I put my head down and did it. I did it, and a big part of that was because I had achieved so much success without education. It was all self education, a lot of motivational books, inspirational books. But, I go back to even though I was putting on this facade that I had it all figured out, deep down inside, I was struggling. I was struggling. So here
So
I'm sitting on,
you were closing yourself all the time then.
I was closing
Like,
myself all the time and not even believing it some of the time.
wow. And hearing your story, honestly, I mean, being honest with you, I would have never guessed because I cannot think of someone that is gonna go, like you said, right, go into politics, try this different businesses, deliver organs on a helicopter. I mean, all that stuff is something that is not even I don't even have another friend that I can think of that has done all that stuff. And to still sit here and say I was still not fully believing that I can achieve all that and still pushing through, that I think is what's impressive, man. It really, really is. So what's next for Edward? Like if you can map it out for us, what's the next 3-5 years looking like for you? What's next in your playbook or whatever you're looking forward to?
So I'm still going to do real estate, but I'm now building a business that's going to be more system based, where it's just kind of fall in play. My bigger purpose now is to continue to tap into narcissist men that want to heal the relationship with their children
Mhm.
and to be of service and help people. So I put out a lot of content, and I have people reaching out to me now and like, oh, I'm struggling. My children didn't reach out to me for Mother's Day, or what do I do about this no contact and different things. So I'm finding that that's where the next part of my journey is now starting to put on these different 1 2 day events where parents can come and just start to get real talk about
Mm,
how to start to mend the relationship with your children. It's teaching them about generational wealth, but generational wealth isn't just about money.
mm,
Sometimes the biggest generational wealth is healing the relationship
yeah,
with your children. And
interesting.
so that's where I come from. I'm gonna focus on doing my TED talk in the next year. I have a new book that's coming out in a month, and I wrote it when I was in a coma 6 months, 7 months ago, and it's called "Fuck Average: Life's Real Playbook," and it's basically a step-by-step approach that hits 11 different categories, from relationships to money to um, business, mindset, and it talks about all. It's almost like the cheat sheet of what you need to not be average in life.
Mm,
And I literally got the idea when I was in a coma, deciding whether or not I was going to stay or not.
wow.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to hear that or read that. I cannot wait. When is that one going to get released?
In a month, but I can send you the PDF. I
Perfect.
can
Well,
send you the PDF.
I would
Yeah,
greatly
and that happened
appreciate that.
with my accident 7 months ago. So 1% chance of living. I'm not supposed to be here. I fell asleep coming back from visiting my daughter. I ran into the back of a big rig truck, and yeah, right there on the spot, I lost all my blood. They had to extract me, and went straight to USC in a coma, and yeah, wasn't supposed to
And
be here.
and this happened just this 6 months ago.
October 10th, 2025, and I was in ICU in a coma, and I was out of ICU exactly 1 week later, all because of mindset. I made the
Wow.
decision that I was going to live, and against the doctor's orders, against everything, I walked out. Now, of course, with some assistance, but
Right.
and I started my journey of healing. But yeah,
Well, and especially, man, because you have still a lot more lives to touch. I mean, I cannot wait to read the book first of all, and then second, I cannot wait to see you in your social media. I watched some of the stuff that you've been posting, and some of it is. I'll be honest with you, man. I'm a father of a 2 year old, and a lot of the things that you say get me thinking of some things that naturally we tend to just do just because we have it in us based on our past. And you know what? I have been making a lot of improvements too. So I want to thank you for the stuff that you're already sharing. And also, how can people connect with you? How can people find you on social media? Where do they go to find you and be more accessible to anything they may need?
so social media, Facebook and TikTok, Instagram, it's all my name, Edward Rodardi underscore. And on YouTube, my podcast is called Fatherhood Voices with Edward Rodardi. And that's where I bring men on to share their stories, what's working, what's not. Not only fathers, but also the children that have been sometimes victims, sometimes just the ones that suffer through the trauma of their moms and dads. So yeah, you find me there, and Googled me, So,
And then the book, where do they get the book from your
so
website?
the book, Healing the Inner Brat, they can get it on Amazon. So it's
Okay.
self-published, and then
Okay.
the new one's going to be coming out also. So
Amazing.
excited about that one.
Well, we cannot wait. We cannot wait for that book. And again, for anyone watching the podcast, make sure you connect with Edward. I know him personally, and I got to tell you, every interaction we've always had has been a great one. And I know, I mean, Edward, thank you again just for being here. Just you being here and connecting with us through this channel. I know that there's gonna be someone out there that you're gonna be able to impact, another life that you're gonna be able to also help out. So again, Edward, thank you very much for this moment that we just had here. And again, for anyone watching the podcast, make sure you subscribe, because just like this, we're going to be able to keep having amazing people that are doing amazing things. So stay tuned, make sure you subscribe and share with anyone else that is out there struggling maybe through business or trying to find them way. That's what we're trying to achieve here. So thank you. Thank you, Edward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and don't forget, if there's more business owners out there, make sure you send it to them because we're all helping each other.